Well, it looks like I'm live. And hello to whomever is here. Not sure if I can see. I am so uneducated on this live thing. I should get myself more familiar with the details so I can better understand it. But I know enough to get here to be live, so here I am. And looks like we already have one person in the chat. Maybe it's just one person viewing. Um, there's Steffi Thee. Steffi Thee. Hello, Steffi Thee. And there's Apostate Alex. Hey, good buddy. Wow. Mr. Peter Anderson's here. Hello, Peter. Good to have you. Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining. Um, let's see. So I come to you all today to uh, speak of yet some more behind the scenes, what the day-to-day life was like at the international base, and a topic that I've come to understand people are interested in hearing more about was um, a system that was used at the Imp base called the Team Share System. And the Team Share System is exactly what it sounds like: is a system for a team to share in. If that makes any sense. um, this was a directive. Again, this actually was born out of a solution L. Ron Hubbard was looking for to increase the productivity and raise the ethical standards of the international base staff. Um, there was an L. Ron Hubbard advice written on it explaining the system's purpose and all the details therein. And then a program was written. A program is an in-house Scientology, particularly a Sea Org administrative term that's used amongst Sea Org members to understand that when a program is written, it has a specifically designed purpose and goal to be attained, listing various targets. And what I mean by various targets is there was a series of varied importance of type targets. Now, all the targets of this specified program are to be completed from beginning to end, but nonetheless, a program basically lists out um, from beginning to end all the actions necessary to carry out the stated goal and purpose of the program. So, if it was to teach like I'll just keep it simple. If it's a program written to teach a child how to tie shoes, that would be the title of the program. It would be issued on official executive um, letterhead type thing. And in our case, it would be an executive directive. And I'm sorry, I get diverted. I get distracted by the chat because I respect the fact that you folks are taking the time coming here. Yeah. Lydia von Strechka. Yes, it's totally okay if you're listening. I just appreciate the fact that you're here. Anyways, so the program is titled "Teaching a Child How to Tie Their Shoes." It would start off at the top listing the program's purpose, its major targets, and then the sequence of steps that one is to carry out. And also, this program would show who's responsible for which targets, who's overall responsible for the program, and what needs to be done to complete it. And then at the end, it would be signed by the issuing authority, such in this case, it would be a Sea Org executive or whoever's in charge of such scenarios of teaching kids how to tie their shoes. So, anyways, so you have the major targets listed. Obtain a pair of shoes, ensure a child is in a safe place, in which they can tie their shoes. Those would be major targets. And make sure there's an adult in the room or somebody who knows how to tie shoes is in the room. And then the targets would be make sure, targets 1 through 10, whatever, however many targets are. I'm just trying to give you simple terms of, um, you know, make sure the shoes fit the child or size to the child correctly. Make sure they're wearing socks. Those would be 2 different targets. That target would be listed as whoever it's assigned for. In this case, maybe it's a nanny, and the nanny would be the one that have to provide all the specifics and evidence proving that that particular target was done. So if it was obtain the properly sized shoes for the child, you'd take a picture with the pair of shoes and the child wearing them, showing that they fit. That would be your evidence, and you'd submit that for approval, showing that that target's done. As ridiculous as the details sound in that case, um, that is what Sea Org members spent their time mostly doing, was doing such ridiculous targets. Anyways, so at the end, you basically end up having a kid who could tie their own shoes, and that would be the purpose of the program. So in this case, there is the L. Ron Hubbard advice, which is basically um, advice being L. Ron Hubbard policy or directive. It was redefined into advice so as to cut the paper trail off leading or indicating that L. Ron Hubbard had any direct hands-on involvement with church management to any capacity. He could not be held legally responsible or legally accountable for being involved with church functions and activities if he was just writing an advice. Legally, that's what it would be cast off as. So that kept him out of hot water. Anyway, so this new advice came out titled the Team Share System. And this is going to be, I'm going to be reliving this based off of memory because I remember the day. It was late evening into the early evening. Dusk. Remember the sun going down, being down in the original Massacre Canyon Inn out at the Ent base, which is you may have, if you're familiar with that location. It's the main dining hall. It was laid out much different then than what it is today. Back then, it was still had the original paint on the walls, the original flooring, all the original furniture, dining room style from back in the 60s and 70s. It was just basically still furnished and looked like it did from the day that place was bought and was last used as a resort for the hot springs out there. Anyway, so saying that, I'm just painting it out in my mind. And so we had a base wide gathering where all the base staff were brought down and all met there to show up and sit in an audience to where somebody was going to be up front presenting some sort of special briefing to us. We were all handed these packages, packages meaning information packets, which was the L. Ron Hubbard advice, a copy of the L. Ron Hubbard advice, and the program to execute L. Ron Hubbard's advice. In this case, it was a team share system. And then up in front was this gentleman who was upper management's executive over Golden Era Productions specifically. At that time, that location internally was referenced and titled it was that location, actually, the Ent base, the Gilman Hot Springs, was identified as S referring to summer, as opposed to W, meaning there was another location referred to as W. And I'm not going to go into the details exactly how and why it was called that, but we were the summer headquarters, and then there was a winter headquarters. Both places, in essence, looked to be where L. Ron Hubbard would be functioning from as his headquarters, one during the wintertime and the other during the summertime. Ironically, they both were in the desert, so it didn't make sense to me, but whatever. I was at S, and the watchdog committee for S, WDCS, his name was Bill Dindu at the time. He's the one that got up front and announced what we were all were there for and what he had to brief us on, and that was the team share system. As he's up there talking, we were reading along in the handouts that we were given, and discovering that L. Ron Hubbard's view of the productivity and the ethical level of the base was substandard, and he wanted it to be improved. And it was kind of like a zeroing out of any previously known mistakes that you had as a staff member. You know, all ethics conditions were zeroed out. Nobody had them. Nobody could be held accountable for something that was written prior to that day, because it was going to be the start of a new accountability system, an accountability system on a one-on-one basis, but to serve the purpose of making the group a better group. So what I mean by that is, from this point, this day forward, we were going to be issued these cards. These cards served as identifying the key core values that, I don't know, what should I say? It's a team share system. So there was 5 different cards. One card was the bonus card, which was a blue card. No, it was that was your social card. I'm sorry. Your social card. It was a blue card. The social card meant that you could partake, if you possessed your social card, you could attend and partake in any social events that would go on, such as Sea Org Day, Christmas parties, and also it gave you the ability to take days off. You had to be in possession of your social card to take days off and attend parties and social gatherings and events. Next, let's see. Blue, green. Oh, okay. So there's a social card, and then there was your bonus card, which was a green card. Gosh, for some reason I'm drawing a blank. Excuse me. I thought I came here good off of memory, but social card was the blue. Green card was the bonus. Yeah, there's blue, green, yellow, red, and one other. Gosh, usually my memory's pretty good on this. Anyways, so there's a social card, pay card, bonus card, chow card, and then your birthing card. Now, the social card was, like I said, for social events. The bonus card allowed you to collect a bonus if bonuses were offered. You had your pay card that you had to be in possession of to collect your pay when your statistics were up. Then you had your chow card, which is a red card that you had to be in possession of to be fed what was on the regular crew menu. If you did not have your chow card, the only thing you could eat would be rice and beans. And then you had your birthing card being the last card, that you had to be in possession of to be able to sleep in the normal provisions, your normal bed that was afforded you, whether it was in a dormitory or if you were sleeping in your own space with your spouse. So even if you're with your spouse or you're sleeping in a group setting, a dormitory type setting, you had to have that card to sleep in either of those locations. So you had to be in possession of each of those cards individually to be afforded what each card offered, which was, again, social, your bonus, your pay, your chow, or your birthing. And if you had all those, you also wore a yellow star that was issued when we initially got these cards. So you could walk around and have on your lapel your yellow star, and people could just see by a glance that you had your yellow star, and you didn't have to pull your card out from your wallet, because it was expected of you to carry these cards around you at all times. You couldn't take them off the base. Um, and that was highly highlighted for the purpose that in the event that you ran across trouble or some poor performance on your job, those cards could be pulled from you by an executive if the executive deemed it fit, your situation fit. You should not be in possession of your social card, or whatever card that you have in line. So on Monday, you can be in possession of 5 cards. By Friday, you could screw up every day and underperform in the eyes of your executive, or any executive for that matter, and have nowhere to sleep at the end of that week. And each card will be pulled. Um, the moment you lose your yellow star or your social card, you get put onto what's called a staff member in trouble writing form, or what we came to know as a SMIT, staff member in trouble writing form. Um, so that would put you on the internal correction process to correct your difficulty as a staff member, whether it would be an ethics situation that you would need to be corrected on, or a job performance requiring you to go study some manual or some L. Ron Hubbard policy or directive to discover what you didn't understand about it, get that cleared up, demonstrate that you know it, um, get yourself routed through the writing form, and then the end of the writing form is once you've met all the steps previous to the last step, you would get signed off and say this staff member has been corrected, and the last card that you lost would be returned to you. So I'm hoping this is making some sense, but the whole idea, um, um, I'm hoping that it gives you an idea, because my purpose here is to help you understand. And again, I had a unique position at the Imp base. Is I was never really in a single fixed position of responsibility. The things that I did, I was mostly in security the entire time. So I wasn't going off randomly to other locations around the world down to Los Angeles. I was pretty much at that base every day, all day long, from 1982 to 1997. Um, so I got to know things, the ins and outs, all the nooks and crannies, all the shadows, all the bright spots, all the poor spots, you name it. So this is why I chose to, go over such details such as the team share system. So the team share system, for those that were at the base at that time, this is a real sore subject and maybe a triggering subject to discuss, because the system started out good. I understand, it made sense to me as to why we're doing it. I felt that it leveled the playing field of of leveled the playing field, that everybody equally stood a chance to be in a productive position. And as long as you possess those things, that meant that was a representation of your productivity and your contributions as to why we were all there. Um, so yeah, I felt proud that I had my gold star. I also didn't feel proud about myself when it was taken away from me. But over time, people would lose those stars, they would break off, and people would unspokenly start judging one another. They don't have their star on display on their shirt or clothing somehow. They would get frowned upon indirectly, or just not smiled at, or just people would pass on by, not acknowledge your presence type of atmosphere. Executives eventually started abusing the team share system, because never once in any of those directives did L. Ron Hubbard state that you could pull more than one card at any time, um, even if what an executive found or discovered you were performing poorly at, or produced a negatively liked product, something that could be exchanged. Um, Never in there did they say that you could pull more than one card. So we kind of had the comfort of no matter how upset you upset somebody, you were limited to having one card, and it just gave you more of a feeling of a chance to right the wrong and get back into good graces and maintain that ability to have days off and get your pay and yada yada yada. So um, I am going to quickly catch up here because I don't have a mod. I don't have mods in my chat here. I don't have many in my chat, but for those that are here, you'll see that I have no moderators here, and I do that by choice because I don't want this community has um became toxic as of late, as some of you may well know, and I've made the choice to, and that toxicity has included moderators getting attacked for their keeping happiness in the chat by removing negative or trolls or people who are here to stir the waters, and people were taking defense of that, and then the moderators were being uh, for better or less description being attacked for them doing this and controlling that environment. And again, the moderators are there on a voluntary basis. I've even had people reach out to me expressing interest to be my mods, and I don't want to put them in that position under these current situations. So until that toxicity calms down and moderators can actually do what they've come in and offered here to do, which is out of the kindness of their hearts, create a calmer thing, and they assist by highlighting questions that I can then therefore you guys know what mods. Maybe I'm speaking way beyond. So I just didn't want to put them in that, and I'm just burden myself with keeping track of this. So I'm sorry for getting distracted, but I do like to keep up. K Peta, just joining, catching up. Kelly BC. Let's see. I thought I saw a question on her. Maybe I didn't. I'm sorry. Lydia, hey, good evening. Hi, everyone. Question. Okay, yeah. So this is K Peta. Was pay on a color card or in cash for the SO? I'm wondering if you're asking is if the pay was dispersed on like a card, a credit card. No, all pay was while I was my entire time in the Sea Org. If there was any pay given out, it was always handed out in cash, and we never possessed debit cards or other type of cards that is known in today's society, such as if people were getting help from the state would issue a card, and that made it easy that the state would just add to those funds on the card, and people could go pay for food and needful things through the use of that card. No, the card was just something you had to be in your possession and to be able to show that you're in possession of it at any time to be able to draw pay. So if we went to get our pay and showed up to the payroll officer, we'd have to show our pay card and before they would hand us our pay. So that would be an example. Yes, we did have a card. It showed your pay card. It was green, had my name on it, signed by the ethics officer. It was laminated so it wouldn't get destroyed too easily. And if I wanted my pay, and when I went to get my pay, I had to make sure I had my pay card. So if I left my pay card where I slept, I had to run back to get that first and then go to the payroll officer. Even if I was standing in front of the payroll officer, she or he could not hand me my pay until I showed them my pay card. If that makes sense. Every day, us guards stood in the front of the line in which staff stood to go through a buffet style feeding process in the dining room, Massacre Canyon Inn, and we checked every person that was there to eat to make sure they had their chow card. If they didn't have it, if they forgot it somewhere or was destroyed in the wash, they couldn't eat. We held that standard. That isn't to say that every now and then you have to understand while you're standing there checking, you have like just imagine a buffet. You have a table at the end of a buffet or a table that's got big hotel trays with big spoons in it. You can dish up your food onto a plate and move through the line and collect what it is you'd like to eat. Well, at the beginning of that, we would stand by the plate table and people would be on either side of us. They'd be lined up to make the line move faster. So I'd be looking to my right and left. Where's your pay card? Where's your pay card? Make sure they show it. And if they didn't have it, that would be a point of embarrassment to all those around seeing you standing in their line. If you didn't have your pay card, I'd be the one to tell them, sorry, you can't eat till you get your pay card. And they would try to sit there and haggle with you as anybody would. Say, like at an airline, telling the stewardess or the ticket counter lady or man, I lost my ticket. Can you print me out another one? And, everybody around you would hear that fact. So in this case, it would be a point of embarrassment. Plus, it would be really chewing into limited amount of time for them to eat. So if they run back to their office to get it, I would force them to do that. And they literally would haul ass to go back to get the card and come back. Me and my guards would do that. As sad as that sounds, that's what we were expected to do, and we did it. So, I'm sorry, I was just okay. Kate Peta says, yeah, I answered her question, which is good. Okay. That's pretty nice. I like to see that I'm answering people's questions. So, all right. So that being an example, people showing up every day to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I had to have, or us guards had to be there. So pretty much us guards never ate with the staff. Either we were on watch, keeping the base secure, or we were standing for the guards that were not on watch. There was usually always a minimum of 2 guards, because there was the general crew side of the dining room, and then there was the officer side, the executive side. 2 buffets serving 2 different echelons, 2 different levels of executives, service side. So we would have a guard in the executive side and a guard on the general staff side. And every staff member was upheld to be in possession of the card. And if they didn't, they could not continue and collect food for that meal, be sent back to go get it, or they just, if they didn't have it, every buffet line always had a hotel pan of rice and beans. And we would have to visually make sure that that's all that they ate. So it's kind of this in your face, degraded state of affairs. If that makes sense, if imagine being at a buffet in Vegas, I'm going to assume that a lot of people here have been in Vegas, so this may be a familiar reference, but the degradation, I'm trying to think of a word here to use to fulfill, but degradation, or the classification, or the it's a traumatized. I never realized what was at play, but you just would feel degraded. You were just you weren't in possession of a card, so you weren't a team player. And I think that was really the whole point of the team share system, is to keep everybody in the frame of mind and always shooting for the goal to be a productive, contributing team member. So, and then for those that weren't, you were basically put on public display, and it was intended to be that way, so as to impact and kind of rattle the staff members' wagon, or rattle their cage a little bit more, to get them to move into line faster, and to get their shit together and get productive faster. So that's why it was done. That was a very much in our face. Everybody knew, especially at the beginning, in this team share system, like I was referencing earlier, sitting down at Massacre Canyon Inn when we're handed out the program and the L. Ron Hubbard advice for the first time, being introduced to the system. That was back in, I want to say, 1983-ish into 1984-ish. It was very early on. Very early on of my career at the Amp Base. And it probably didn't last more than 10 years at the most. It especially closer to the end of those 10 years, it would fall off the radar and then get re-implemented as a means to get the crew back on, get the organizational stats back up to par, and the staff back up to par, and they would make another running effort to get the team share system in, yada, yada, yada. But, I see a question here. Peter, Why didn't either side of the base of their own galley instead of putting in the tunnels and decreasing time in transit for meals? Oh, well, Peter, that's because now what he's referring to is the international base um, was a compound. Through the middle of that compound was State Highway 79 at the time. That's what it was identified. It cut through that. So there was a north side and there was a south side. Eventually there was tunnels. Well, before I get to the tunnels, so from the north side to the south side, the only way to get to and fro the either side, everybody had to walk across the highway that split the north side from the south side. And then eventually tunnels were put in, and then people would walk down through those tunnels, not being affected by or slowed up by traffic, and we wouldn't be a hazard to traffic. So there was tunnels. Peter's now asking, why not have a feeding facility on the north side and the south side, saving that extra travel? Because getting around anywhere on that property included travel time by foot for the majority of the staff. So it consumed a lot of one's time. So Peter's question is valid. Why wouldn't there be on a galley on the north side and south side? Well, I don't know if that was ever thought of, but it didn't make sense because all the cooking facilities, the ovens, the stoves, and all that were down in Massacre Canyon Inn. I guess it was just by design that that's where it would be. No other facilities supported the ability to cook, have hoods, have refrigerators, and all that. That would be a pretty significant added expense. So it just, that's where the kitchen was. That was the kitchen was, um, if that makes sense, Peter. I hope that answered your question. It just was never, to my knowledge, ever discussed to create it. That isn't to say that Dave Miscavige didn't have his own little kitchenette afforded him up near his office, and that was there simply to afford him snacks throughout the day, him and Shelly snacks. So if there was anything else, well, maybe there was a kitchen up in L. Ron Hubbard's house. There was a kitchenette. Maybe it was a small kitchen, but nonetheless, it was a place in where drinks and snacks could be made for the L. Ron Hubbard studio, the music studio. And that's the only other place that I'm aware of. Or the Horwich house had its own kitchen where John Horwich and Roanne lived, because that was a residence. And so John and Roanne were able to cook and provide their own meals at their own choices up there, which wasn't always used. But eventually John went on his own diet and started making his own meals. He had cash to be able to do it. So he had the ability to do it. That isn't to say that other rooms didn't have other places in which we lived didn't have small little minor abilities to do it, but it just wasn't part of the backbone. So anyways, that would be my answer to it, Peter. There was one central place for everybody to come and eat, and that's where they ate. And plus it afforded us to have our musters, our places in which we can eat and then walk a short distance, stand in line, be accounted for, get a quick briefing before we return to work. And that's what would happen. So Massacre Canyon Inn was that, and that served that purpose through the entire time that I was there. So, all right. Anyways, back to the team share system. This team share system, I kind of dance around on my memories with this. So excuse me if I don't seem to be fluid on explaining how a dot of white paint became this colorful different color over there and all the ingredients that make that up. I'm not I can tell you about both ends, and it's a mixed salad of the story there in between, so I apologize. But it did play a significant role of impact on us as int-based staff members, and for a majority of the part, all int-based staff, all executives even had. I remember even Mark Yeager, this commanding officer of CMO International, and the WDC, the Watchdog Committee executives, all wearing their yellow stars. And again, like I said, they all had to present their chow cards when they came to get food. And eventually all that fell wayside. And it did initially start with the executives where I was instructed to not ask the executives, the upper executives, such as Mark Yeager and Guillaume Laserve and Dave and Shelly and other executives for their food, for their child cards, because they wouldn't be in possession. They wouldn't be that executive if they didn't have their child card. So they kind of earned the right to not be so detailedly inspected, if that makes sense. Um, I don't know. It was the beginning of the double standard, contrary to what L. Ron Hubbard said, because again, in that L. Ron Hubbard advice, there was nothing stated in there that there was any difference between if you were an int-based staff member, everybody played by this rule, played by this system. So I just think that was probably the skin of the teeth beginning of the power change, the ability to take control. Because if you look at that as an action from a subordinate's point of view, when you start recognizing there's uniformity that even the executives play the same game to, and then slowly that changes, the word gets around that the executives no longer are going to be held to the same level that we are. It starts it plants a seed of you questioning what's going on, but you just, the way we were handled with stuff like that was you're not in the know. You weren't carbon copied on the communication associated with that decision. It just started creating the double standard. So there you have it. I'm going to try to keep this no more than an hour, just for all your folks and for the playback crew and replay crew, playback crew, replay crew. For those who come back later and check out the crap that I have to say. But so I remember also, here's another aspect that, like, we as int-based staff used to travel to Los Angeles to attend events or such as the LA. There was the Portland Crusade, and then there was the LA Crusade, where we were down protesting at these courts of justice, protesting these legal cases that were being thrown at Scientology, and we were going down there and protesting, demonstrating against them going against religion. And I remember when the staff would load up on buses and travel to LA, we used to have to go on the bus and inspect the staff members, have them empty out their pockets. And we would go with a bag and collect people's cards. And, people were expected to leave them back in their offices, so we didn't have to collect them and spend extra time security checking them physically before they left the property. But nonetheless, it was my job, my guards' job, to make sure that staff left in a secure fashion, and they could not have anything in their possession that would indicate that they were part of this base. So we used to collect people's cards, even if it was their driver's license that had the base address on it, the 19625 Highway 79. Initially, they had to leave that behind because, again, that gave away their security. So if they went to LA to drive, it was a luck of the draw to drive without their driver being in possession of their driver's license. But we had that became the exception eventually, because I remember discussing that within security and the legal officer, that we have to let staff have their driver's license. That is a legal requirement of the laws of the land, and we can't take that away from them. And then we started giving the staff, they could go off with their driver's license, but it was up to them to keep their security and keep that thing, their license, secure, so people couldn't see the address on their license. So I hope that gives a little tidbit to the extent of how much our fingers were on the pulse of keeping that environment secure and the staff secure and the do's and don'ts. And it was quite to do. So collecting those cards from staff before they left on the bus to LA would be in a bag. Once the bus left, one of his guards would put all these cards out in alphabetical order on our cabinet in the back of our booth, in alphabetical order. So when the staff came back, sometimes they may trickle in as individuals, or they would trickle in as the group. we would just tell the bus to park behind us, and then staff would come up to our window, and we could easily grab all their possessions rather than digging through the bag. We could just see everything's laid out in alphabetical order and just had things back as names were announced and give everything back to everybody. But it was just this added layer of busy, busy, busy work. I mean, gosh, the amount of time staff members spent, you know, seconds lead to minutes, minutes leads to hours, hours leads to days, days lead to weeks, weeks leads to months type of thing. A lot of time was spent by staff members caring for and accounting for their security and what was on them, being inspected um, to and from that property. Just a lot of time and effort was spent into it. So the team share system, there was certainly a window, a time frame that was hit after the initial handing out of this system, and we spent a couple of few months enjoying the benefits of it. That a lot of people would take their days off every, what was it, every 2 weeks. You could take a week off or take a day off, and it was a sense of pride and accomplishment that because you had your social card, there was no restrictions on you getting time off. So you would write your request to get that time off, and because you had your social card, it would get approved. And you would end up getting time off and getting 2 days off, like back to back, like one. I think it was in every other week. You were port or starboard, and again, the crew was split administratively into being port staff or starboard staff, and that only came into play such as any workplace would. There's a tolerance of having no more than 5 people off on any given, depending on the workload and the how many personnel are involved. But where I've come from, not more than 5 of the existing employees could all be off on the same day. So seniority would come into play and who gets drawn to that. And then others could schedule their days off around that. But it's just to keep the work going. So in the sea organization, at your point of hire in which you would arrive to the base, you would be assigned a port position or be identified as being a port staff member or a starboard staff member. And so having your gold star, you would get days off every other week. And typically your counterpart would cover your job and you would cover their job, type of thing. Same person or similarly raked, or somebody in your area in which you worked, they would cover your post and you would cover theirs. That way your job, nor would their job be left open and nobody attending to, performing those job duties in your absence. So it was good. I remember that. It was kind of fun. It was very short lived. And I would say no more than 6 to 10 months, excuse me, did we really get to enjoy the fruits of the team share system until you'd start witnessing it being abused sneaking in, and you would see an executive just verbally dissect someone's soul in your presence. And out of how upset that executive was, it started turning into, not only would they just pull one card, but the executive would just pull 3 cards right off the bat. And if that's how upset they were, that they felt that they don't even want to allow you to get food. If you had all 5 cards, they would take your social, your bonus, your pay, your chow card all in one and just leave you with your birthing card. It was just like instantaneous justice, and it was just humiliating. I have trouble with certain words. Humiliating. And you'd be on display, and all your coworkers and staff members around you. It was just this abused. It was not intended to be. The team share system was not intended to be managed that way or utilized that way at all. But that didn't stop the executives from, meeting their own demands and having to answer up above them as to what did they do to deal with it. Well, I pulled 3 cards. Well, that would satisfy their boss's ears. It's like, well, okay, you serve them instantaneous justice, so just keep on at them and keep the pressure on and get that done. God damn it, It was just the toxic environment that eventually that was created from the top and pushed on down, that opened the door for executives to be assholes. And it was really, really bad. I have to say, it just eventually nullified the system because, a person on Monday may have upset an executive so much that he was probably already missing two of the five cards. That an executive would be upset on Monday, pull an additional two cards, and then that would rattle the guy so much that come Tuesday he may lose his last card. So come Friday, he would live the rest of the week with having no cards, being on rice and beans. The demands of his post would be increased, and with that increase of the demands on his job, he wouldn't have time to go take care of the writing form that he was now on, the staff member in trouble writing form, to go get himself fixed, to get his cards back so he can get fed and have a place to sleep and to get paid. It was such a challenge. It was this, you were defeated from the word get-go, and it would just take months to try to figure out on the demanding schedule of the Sea Org, how do you get your head back up above water? It just was, it went from the team share to the team unfair system. So it was a team share system to the team unfair system. Just was freaking incredible. I'm seeing a question here. And this is from Sue Irwin. Hello, Sue. Did you ever get any of your cards taken away? I did, but oddly enough, I don't know if it was because I was in security and I was in the execution arm of leveling discipline amongst people. And I don't know, it was kind of, it was nice, but I didn't understand what I was doing, except that I knew I was doing good. And I wasn't a bad hat. I wasn't a bad person, but I never lost my cards too much. That isn't to say I always had my social card and could take a day off at any time. I minimally had my pay card, birthing card, and chow card on me. The bonus and social card eventually just didn't matter. As long as you had your pay, your chow, and your birthing card, that would be one and the same as having all five. So that became the new standard. And then eventually nobody gave a shit about the system. But yeah, I did lose my cards, and then eventually, oh yeah, okay, I'm remembering. So there was blue. The bonus card, I think, was orange. So yeah, or yeah, the pay. No, okay. So there was the green. I mean, there was the blue card, social card. The next card was green, which is the bonus card. The next card was orange, and that was your pay card. And then there was your red card, as your chow card or your meal card, and then your yellow card for your birthing card. So there you go. That's the full thing. So that's the full array. The colors of the card and what they all met. So your blue card was your social card. Your green card was your bonus card. Your orange card was your pay card. Your red card was your chow card, and your yellow card was your birthing card. That's the team share system cards. Sorry I didn't get that out earlier. So it took 48 minutes to get that to read. I should have written that down. Sorry, I apologize. I should have done that. I'm just seeing Peter making a comment. I agree with the steps that Larry Wallersham detailed on Scientology, peeling the onion. The chronicles of Gary Jackson Ward experiences while they are one of these steps. Yeah, well, thank you for that. I'm hopeful that all you folks who come to this community to hear such stories from those that are here to tell the truth and afford you factual bits and tidbits of information to whatever degree on whatever topic about Scientology and the Sea Organization. I know you guys entrust us to hold true to telling you the truth and not put anything more beyond what we as individuals know. So it's kind of hard to only speak about one particular thing without maybe adding in an opinion about it. But for me, at least, that opinion is an educated, based off of experience opinion. It's not an assumed opinion. I know an example of this would be, I know the team share system was taken to the Los Angeles organizations, and attempts to implement it there were made. I can't speak anything on that at all because I never witnessed it at play down there, who executed it, who not. I do know it was short-lived, and I heard the back end of it from the execs that went down to Los Angeles from the base to execute it down there, implement it down there, and came back and said that it failed eventually. And that was, I remember that being a short period of time. But again, I'm just kind of highlighting that you guys you listeners here, those of you who have come here, listen to other channels, other platformers, or what am I trying to say? Other people who have their own channels. And our stories are self-collaborating, thus giving you, the listener, a better and clearer understanding of the reality of that environment that we all played in, that sandbox that we're all there playing in. So I'm hopeful that what I say helps bring better understanding and resolution to you folks, because I feel that's very important in this community. I wish I had it when I was looking for it. I wish I had a platform. That's the word I was looking for earlier, is using our platform, this platform of YouTube, for you guys all to come and sit and enjoy the dribble that I have to say. So, anyways, having said that, I'm remembering different little things. I mean, there was this gentleman, Jason Bennick. He was an executive overseeing most of the cine and the production facilities of the Golden Era Organization, from the audio visual side to the cinematography side. Jason used to also be in charge of the international events, and that guy took a lot of heat. He endured a lot of beatdown, a lot of attention, and that was a job position that whoops, need to get some fluid into the airway here. That guy held a position that nobody wanted, because you were always hanging yourself out to dry at any given time. You're always, just by virtue of performing the job, you were putting yourself out there to be shot at any given time. And if there's 10 things to be done for that day, there was 10 clear opportunities to be shot, to where you would lose all your cards. You would be living on the golf course. You would just be treated a piece of crap. It just really disgusting. So, yeah, he in his own defense, in defense of Jason, I saw him tear into subordinates below him in an effort for him to survive yet another day. Because without him obliterating and degrading one of his own staff, that was him defending himself, because he knew he had to answer above him as what you did about this problem that you encountered. Well, sir, I did this, and that would satisfy the executive to believe that Jason was doing all he could to get his job done. So, and wasn't buying into the bullshit he was faced with from his subordinate. If that makes sense. It's a wicked, wicked world. No, in no other organized management world that I've come witness to or worked with or for since I've left the organization, have I ever witnessed this type of management style ever at play, ever. In fact, it was the complete opposite, where I started witnessing people just like, I don't want to work here anymore. Halfway into the day, they would just get up and leave. No harm. They would, I mean, it was a preferred that people would give a 2-week notice, of course, in your typical nowadays workplace, but they also had the comfort. It's like, if they did not want to be there anymore, all they had to do, that mean they literally could walk away and go home. But there's consequences with that, I think, as we all know, but not as much in severe in the C organization. Or could they just get up from the table, walk into the human resources department and go, I'm going to terminate my employment here. And they go, okay. And there are laws set at place that when a company's legally obligated to get your final paycheck to you. So in that case, companies typically aren't prepared to calculate your earned hours up to that point, and it will be understood by the person, just mail my check to me later, or I'll come get it next week. But they still have that comfortable ability to go, well, I'm out of here, and not endure any consequences. So That's I'm just trying to relate to you. It was not like that in the Sea Organization at all, at any time, at any given time, nor do I suspect it's that way at all in any form or letter or any form or way to today's standards in the Sea Org. So um, I'm so thankful I'm no longer part of that, because believe me, that type of environment, that working environment, 24/7, 365, is what afforded me intense nightmares for many, 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 many years until I spoke out publicly. And it literally was on that same day that my nightly nightmares stopped. It was a weird phenomenon to witness, but I kind of felt that was my self-serve therapy, that I wasn't aware of that was going to be what it took to reduce the amount of nightmares. And yeah, the team share system had a lot to do with it. It was really, really an interesting experience, to say the least. I'm going to be of the belief that there's any of our fellow INT-based staff members here listening or watching, they would share in the intensity of the team share system and the impact it had on them as an INT-based staff member. I don't believe people like Claire and Mark ever, like, I don't think that they were there that early enough, or they may have been aware of it, but it wasn't being executed and utilized in such an intense way as it was when I was there a lot earlier than them. So, but nonetheless, most, if not all, INT-based staff were familiar with the team share system, and it was pretty effed up. I'm going to quickly go through questions here. KT PETA, boy, you comment here enough. We should have lunch or coffee sometime, so that would be nice. I am going to take the time here that if you are here, I surely would appreciate, solely for the fact of, I like to know how many people are interested in the crap that I have to say. So if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscription button or the like button. I'm not here on this platform or channel for anything beyond just being able to be here for a place to come to people to come listen to and watch. I'm not interested in the super chats, the monetization, the no nothings. I really don't want anything to do with that. So if I can keep this up without having to entertain that, then that's what I'm here for. If YouTube constantly pushes me forward just in exchange, legally, I guess, for lack of better terms, for me to use YouTube, then so be it. I will have to do it, but I will make the choices and selections to the minimal, and to not maximize any dollar generated out of this, because I have no interest in the money. Comment KPETA. I'm so glad you had the FD while you were at Gold to have an escape from that place, even though the calls were. Yeah, that would be an understatement on the calls. Hey, there's Witness. I could, if you guys want me to have a topic of talking about my fire department experiences while I was at the INT base, I can do that. You better be prepared for some hair-raising stories to be told. And I will fully respect if you do not want me to tell you the details. I won't tell you, but I can tell you about the experiences and how at the time I was having those experiences, my headbutting with trying to do a bring that body to life event, but being forced to do what society does and not utilize Scientology in a life-saving situation. That was an experience in itself. So I can go down that rabbit hole with you guys if you'd like, about my experience as a Sea Org member and a Scientologist trying to help an injured individual or human being, traumatized human being, and basically how I did not apply Scientology through 99% of that stuff. There were a couple times that I tried it, but if you guys are interested, then I will do that. So again, it's going to come with some pretty morbid stories, and pretty freaking morbid. So let's see. Witness, hello. Hey, Witness. Linda Von Stretchcaw, she's promoting to please sub, like, etc. drives out your channel and your message. Subbing, liking, etc. drives out your channel and your message. Oh, drives out, like, and it promotes it, right? Is what I'm going to take that. So, yes. Maybe I should give you a a Jeopardy 10 seconds here to everybody just quickly hit the subscription button and the like button. And I'll start now with anyways, that's my comical way of getting more subscribers. All right. I'm not going to bore you with it doing. It's funny that I do know that whole tone because it's something that we watch at the firehouse, and I'm sure, like many other people, Jeopardy was kind of that thing in which you would be able to answer a lot many questions watching that show than you would if you were a participant on the show. And while watching the show and you answering the questions, you go, "How did I know that?" Well, I would constantly find my friends hearing me, and they would even call me, "Dude, what's the answer to this question?" I was like, "I don't know how I know this stuff, but I know it." So I'm sure I missed out of a lot of money um, by not signing up to be up there with Ken Jennings on Jeopardy. And boy, do I miss good old Alex Quebec. So I'm sure we all do. Let's see. Yeah, Jackson doing the Jeopardy thing. Yeah, well, thank you. I have a fireman now, funeral director friends. I would be interested in hearing about your regular life hobbies that you love, places you want to visit. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I have a lot of those. I'm starting to build a little photo library that I can bring up here. You may notice in today's thumbnail, there's a picture of Happy Valley. Well, that Happy Valley highway sign indicating a town and the off ramps in a point of travel that you're coming up to. Just that Happy Valley sign to me is triggering because there's so many history. And if any of you those have been in this community long enough, you'll know what Happy Valley means, and that's where the ranch kids stayed. That's where the rehabilitation project force was. I used to be a guard out there. It was a property owned by the church out through at the foothills of Mount San Jacinto through the Sabobi Indian Reservation. A lot of history there, and to see that on the highway side is kind of comical to me. And I live literally right next to a town called Happy Valley. So not by plan or anything, just by living life, I end up living right next to Happy Valley. It's freaking weird. One of those things in life. So, yeah, it wasn't happy at all. I would like, you're dropping these little things here, KT PETA, that I'm of the belief that leads me to believe that you and I know each other more than I understand that we do. So, Peter Anderson, I'm just over my hour here. So, Jackson, did you see the fire video that Kelly at the Intuitive Inquirer did the other day? I did not. Excuse me. The fire video. I Elizabeth Ferris reached out to me during one of her lives to come on and give my input on the status of the fire that was out by the international base out of Gilman Hot Springs, because I keep my fingers in the goo. I stay in touch with the fire world, anything and everything out in Southern California. So I had all the answers she was looking for about the status of the fire and the situation that may have presented itself, or threat it may have presented to the international base. So I'm gonna have to look that up there, Peter. Oh, okay, yeah, Rika. Okay, thank you very much. Please text me later, sweetie. As you know, Rika and I hung out this past Saturday. I was her first live. That was kind of fun and entertaining. Not just kind of, it truly was. I was really rather impressed by how well she did it. And it was fun. All these random questions that she asked me, it was very organic. And I just enjoyed it. So I just love that stuff. And then Peter, she had a video about a fire that was labeled an arson at the pack base. Oh, okay. A video. Well, that may have been something. I don't remember if there were any fires at the pack base while I was at the imp base, but I'd be interested in hearing about that. May bring back some memories there, Peter. I had a blast and always have fun with you. Yeah. Yeah. We met up at a regular bagel and coffee joint. And I missed buying it for her, as I normally tend to hopefully do, but she got there earlier than I did, so she beat me to the tab. But nonetheless, we had a good time. Learned a lot about Rika and her passion, and why she does what she does, and how she came about doing what it is she does to support this community. It's rather impressive, to say the least. And let's see. I think that's it, folks, with all the questions. Again, I'm trying to keep this within a reasonable time for people to come and listen to, give or take an hour. Whoops. I should probably take this comment down out of respect. There we go, from Peter. And allow everybody to get back on to moving on with their lives. If there's no other questions to be thrown at me here, I think I've satisfied everyone's question um, in relationship to this live that I've done for you. I'm also trying to figure out to not cross wires with other people um, in this community, or trying to do lives. To my knowledge, nobody collaborates and organizes who's going to go live when. I kind of do the best I can to figure out if I'm going to step on anybody's toes. My most driven drive is to do it early enough that if there's people around the world in other time zones, like into the 5 to 8 hour, 10-hour zone ahead of mine, I'm on the Pacific, because I'm here in the Pacific Northwest in Portland, Oregon. I'm on the West Coast Pacific Standard Time. I throw in an 8-hour window, and so I usually like to start by a certain time just to afford people at that time. And then people who are here on my time, most likely going to be the replay crew. So I'm trying to afford everybody a chance to watch something other than your daily news on TV, your network TV news. I do have Dodger games. Got a Dodger and Angels game tonight. If anybody wants to watch that, go Dodgers. Sterling and I, who's a good dear buddy of mine, we hang out over the phone almost every day. I really enjoy that dude's company. He and I go way, way back. So he and I share in the passion of the Dodgers and baseball. So, here's Stacy Toms. I'm still trying to catch up, but I'd be interested in hearing. I'm going to throw your question up here, Stacy. Thank you for being here. I'm still trying to catch up, but I'd be interested in hearing you try to explain how you tried to separate actual medical treatment training from what Church of Scientology teaches, and the frustration. And you know what, Stacy, I am going to write that down on my list of future topics, because I've already announced I'm going to bring this live to an end, if that's okay with you, sweetie. No disrespect, but in the future, I will have an answer to that question, and I'm going to make that a topic for a specific video. Okay. And yes, Lydia, I will let Sterling know today about that. But Stacy, thank you for stating that. I've made an official note now. It will be a specific video specifically covering that, and I will title that in my announcement that I'm going to be going live, and you'll see that that's what it is. So we can catch up on replay if there's a timing clash with creators. It's not a problem. Just glad to hear you anytime. Well, thank you, Born Ancient. Born Ancient. Okay. It's an old soul. I'm going to take it. We can catch up on replay if there's I understand that. I just still want to entertain the idea that if someone can catch a live, the live is offered at a convenience in their life. I know I can't create that everywhere, but just trying to do the best I can. All right. I'm going to sign off now for everybody. Thank you for coming here and coming in and listening to what I have to say. I'm hopeful that it's helping you. I will tell you that just yesterday I was speaking to an individual who is leaving Scientology, and I'm helping that person navigate their way out. And the people out there are alive. I will say that just because I want people to understand the toxicity that arrived to this community was so counterproductive. It made such people who, as an example that I was talking to yesterday, a lot harder for them to come out, simply based off of what they were seeing here. And through their hard effort, tripping across platforms and channels was just an added layer and added delay to their navigating their way out of the cult. So it is happening. It is getting back to normal, but That's why I hold my integrity on staying strong to the truth and affording the people here and the listeners here the truth and with information that actually would be helpful to them, not truly on an entertaining, sensationalized, impactful way. That's just me. I'm not saying that because that's what I feel other channels are or nothing. I'm just telling you that's why I'm here. And I'm shaking hands with the people truly reaching out, looking for help, and bringing toxicity to this platform or my platform in this community is so non-productive. It's so wrong on so many different levels. I say that with handshaking experience. So thank you all for being here. And I look forward to seeing you all in my next. All right. All right. Good evening. What is that? Good evening, good day, and good night. Good day, good evening, and good night. I know there's a movie statement on it, but anyways, see you on the next one. And there we go.